We come here to realize what we have not realized. Both for our own realization and for the fulfillment of our vow, we acknowledge that we must realize what we have not realized. And so, we come here to realize what we have not realized. Basically, this shift from suffering to faith, this step from suffering to faith, the leap from suffering to faith, is facing, due to whatever form of suffering we have found, acknowledging, accepting that what we've been doing hasn't worked. That simply put, our method that's brought us here won't bring us there. We acknowledge that we've walked a certain path, using certain methods, certain criteria, and those criteria have brought us to suffering, have not brought us to the fulfillment of our vow, have not brought us to liberation. We acknowledge that what we've tried hasn't worked. And so, faith means we're willing to try something new, something that we haven't tried. It's very common as we walk this path that we come to the point of realizing that and then freeze up, freak out, fall back into the patterns that have embedded us in suffering. What basically are those patterns? In short, we trust. We have blind faith, unquestioning faith. We give utter authority to our thoughts and our feelings. We don't know what to do, and so we think it. Think it out. Think it. And then we go around and say, I've really thought this through, and this is the conclusion I've come to. This is giving absolute authority to what we think, without questioning it, without wondering, but wait, human knowledge is very weak. It's common that I'll think things through, and then just have one more thought, or gain one piece of information and completely change my mind. Am I really going to base my life on something so feeble as human thought? That's brought us to this point, that's brought me to this point. We don't question it in that way. We don't have a deep questioning. And even if we do question it, we just question it with thinking. But thinking always has its ways of justifying thinking, obviously. Or we feel it out. Say, I really feel this way. I have to follow my heart. I have to do what I feel is right, without questioning our feelings. These feelings that once again draw us this way and then draw us that way. We feel this way and then it's just gone. A few minutes later we feel a completely different way. And yet we base major life decisions on it, without questioning it. And even if we question it, we just question it with feeling. Now feeling has a way of justifying itself in the end. Faith means that we break free of these patterns. We break free of the patterns that have brought us here, and in order to serve us, in order to help us, in order to give us the guidance we need, the Buddha, and others have provided us with something called the 5 aggregates, the 5 heaps, the 5 collections. These collections give us the opportunity to look closely, to actually observe, and notice that all 5 of these come and go. We see them as they are, we see them as they arise, we see them as they pass away. And we know clearly that each of these comes and goes. It's not that they don't exist, and it's not that they exist. They come and go. The first is called form, rupa. Rupa means matter, physical matter. Nowadays in the world, we have a deep belief in matter, both philosophically and practically. So philosophical materialism means that we make the claim that matter is all there is. The material world, the physical world, is all there is. That's really all there is. It's a real thing that really exists of itself inherently, and it's the only thing that exists. This is materialism in a philosophical sense, which is extremely powerful nowadays. It's all just chemicals. It's just this physical substance interacting with that physical substance. There's nothing else. With this comes an easy next step of justifying the destruction of life, because there's nothing there anyway. There's no one there. This is a modern misinterpretation of the Buddhist doctrine of non-self, which you'll hear people say, well, the Buddha said non-self, it's because there's no one there. There's no one inside of you at all. None of it's real. There's just matter. The Buddha never said there's no such thing as self. On the contrary, he said that that's fixation on a view of self. The conclusion that there's no such thing as self is fixation on a view of self, and it's that very fixation that's the issue. He also said that to say there is a self is fixation on a view of self, which is also problematic. Therefore, we have the teaching of non-self. Now, that isn't the same thing as the teaching of materialism. Practical materialism means that it isn't just that we say that matter is all there is, we say that matter is all that matters. That means that you should get things, and that's where happiness truly comes from. In our particular culture, we've taken materialism in the practical sense to the point of hedonism. Of course, there's no necessary logical step from materialism to hedonism, but we have chosen to make that step, meaning that we just value our own pleasure. We see that the physical world, yes, it can be observed. It arises and it passes away. We've been making major decisions, huge decisions, based on the physical world, and we've seen it didn't work. It didn't work, and so we come here to move beyond it. The next is feeling. The subjective experience of your body, likes and dislikes. It can also include emotions. We have the experience of feeling. And for us, as liberal humanists, we hold feeling up above all else, even up above thinking, as the supreme authority in our lives. And if someone tells us, you can't do what you feel like doing, then we suddenly start to see them as the enemy. We have no trust in them. They seem evil. It seems like they're trying to destroy our lives. Something strange overcomes us. It's as if we become possessed by a spirit when someone starts to question, should you be allowed to do what you feel like doing? Suddenly, we tighten up. Because the basis of the religion that we've been indoctrinated with tells us your personal feelings are the supreme authority in the universe. If you need to hurt someone, even kill in order to follow your feelings, well, that's how it is. Because your feelings are the final authority. We believe in these feelings, in our wants, and our likes, and our desires of this particular kind. Of course, there are deeper kinds of attachment and, quote, desire than feeling, but this is the one that we hold up. We come here because we've realized that following our feelings hasn't worked. It didn't work. Didn't work out so well. We thought it would work, but it just brought us to suffering, to injustice, to evil. And so we come here to go beyond that. It's not that we're saying there's no such thing as feeling. No. And it's not that we're saying no one should have any feelings. Not at all. In the beginning of the sutta, if you read it, the Buddha doesn't say, one who knows and sees what? One who knows and sees that feelings don't exist. Read the sutta. You'll see it does not say that. On the contrary, we see, yes, this is feeling. Feeling arises. Feeling passes away. He doesn't say knows and sees what? Knows and sees how to destroy feeling. No, he doesn't say that. Look at it. Read it. Too many people don't actually look at these things. They just make assumptions. So the Buddha said, you should not feel anything. Emotions are evil. Stop it. Read the text. It's not anywhere there. It's just, and so if you see it, the point isn't that the Buddha is some kind of ultimate authority either. The point is that if you see that, if you conclude that, then know that that's saying something about you, nothing about the Buddha. So just take personal responsibility for that if that's what you see. You're seeing your own beliefs. Furthermore, there's, quote, perception. Feeling is Vedana, perception is Sanya. What is that? Well, that's basically the experience of mind. Now, mind can mean thinking, analysis. It can also mean that if you look here and you see a pillar, well, that's activity of mind. That's perception. Even linguists, even modern linguists, know that there is no object in the world that is a pillar. We say pillar, there's no physical object that refers to anywhere. Even linguists know this, much less we should know it. We're supposed to be practicing meditation here. You put with your mind pillar onto the world. This is perception. We perceive this and that. This activity of mind, our thinking, our analysis, our discrimination. We've tried it. We tried to use it. I really thought things through. I've looked very closely at things. I've gathered a lot of information. And now I have concluded such and such. This activity of mind, we see, hasn't worked. It didn't work. We're looking for something else that's going to work better, that won't lead us to suffering. It's not that we're saying you shouldn't perceive anything. Not that we're saying there's no such thing really as perception. It's that we see perception as it is. We know and see it. It isn't just that we perceive it. It's not just that. There's faith that there's something beyond that. There's a way of knowing and seeing. It's beyond mere perception. And with that, it can be directly observed that perception arises, passes away. Arises, passes away. It's conditional. Beyond that, there is sankhara. This is translated as volitional formations, determinations, patterning. What does it refer to? It refers to the basic structure of that which exists. Nowadays, if we want to put it in terms that people in our materialistic religion can understand, well, it would be what most people call evolution. The patterns of reproduction that run what we think of now as evolution. When people say evolution, biological or Darwinian evolution, if you want to call it that, recent theory that's come up in the past few centuries. It's not, again, that this is wrong. Not that there is no such thing as evolution. It's that we see our values, even our form, our feelings, our perceptions that we've discussed already, all of that has come out, as the Buddha said, from sankhara, from evolution. It's just an arbitrary series of patterns, and the patterns that could reproduce, reproduced. That's all. The patterns that could gather resources, energy, they're the ones that reproduce. That's it. We may think, no, this is how it has to really be. We use it to justify what we want. We do something that evolution has made us do, like fall in love, and we conclude, this is real. This is the reality. This is it. I must follow this, because this is sankhara. This is patterning. This is evolution. But we see, this is just arbitrary. Is it that it doesn't exist? No. Nobody's saying it doesn't exist. Should we get rid of it? No. Nobody's saying we should get rid of it. We're noticing it's conditionally arisen. It produces the other aggregates, because it's the structure of creation. The structure of creation is reproduction. Things have to reproduce. There have to be these positive feedback loops in order for something to continually exist. And those positive feedback loops contain in themselves intention. There's intention there. You have to look at very, very closely. Extremely subtle is consciousness. Consciousness is very, very subtle. But it just means what you think it means. A lot of people come to the conclusion, especially spiritual type people, that there's some kind of pure consciousness that inherently exists. But it's our job to see through even that. To see through even that. Even consciousness arises, passes away. Is it that it doesn't exist? No. Is it that we should get rid of it? No. We see that it is conditionally produced. Even consciousness comes and goes. That can be directly observed, and we can become free of even consciousness. Obviously, this is totally inconceivable. Whatever we may think about, whatever we may have an idea about regarding the cessation of consciousness, the cessation of perception, all of this is just absurd. Because that very thing that we're imagining is still consciousness. You think, well, I wonder what the cessation of consciousness is like. Oh, maybe that's what it's like. Obviously, it's not what it's like, because that very experience is consciousness. If you imagine it, that is consciousness. It is vijnana. Therefore, we come to the point of realizing freedom from all five of these. In particular, as Dogen taught, we realize dropping body and mind, or as it's put in the original text, the cessation of perception and feeling. Dropping body and mind. In dropping that, we realize that there's something beyond that. There's a completely new way to move forward. The ability to take a step beyond, in particular, our minds and our bodies, our ideas and our feelings. The ability to go beyond thought and feeling, this is faith. And so there could be something beyond that. This is faith. Please be willing to take this leap. This leap of faith is not blind faith. On the contrary, to hold to our thoughts and feelings and live according to that, that is blind faith. That is continuing to serve this cult that we become members of. And yet there is such a thing as love. There is such a thing as liberation. We're here to realize that. And how is it realized? It's realized first by acknowledging the suffering that we have not been able to escape from, and to take a step beyond it into faith. With that comes gladness. Please cultivate that. Please cultivate this step by step. Too many of us here continually fall back into the same mental patterns that have trapped us forever. We take a little step, and then right away, without noticing that this is just a thought that comes up, we believe in this thought as if it's real. We give it authority over our lives. The thought, well, that's not good enough. You're failing. What are you talking about? Soryu's talking about something much bigger than what you just experienced. You didn't experience anything. That's nothing. Don't trust that. That's just a little bit of happiness. Who's going to trust a little bit of happiness? A little bit of freedom, that's not going to get you anywhere. Come back over here into the patterns that have caused terrible suffering. Come back. We say, oh, okay. That makes sense. And we do. Rather than that, notice that that's just a thought. It's just a thought. That's it. Set it aside. Continue on into gladness. Cultivate that gladness. It naturally becomes exhilaration, rapture. Naturally. Once you realize, oh, that just naturally happened, then it can stop being a terrible battle of yourself against yourself, and you can fall into tranquility. You realize, oh, I don't need to make this happen. Oh, what a relief. We fall into that. With that comes true, mysterious happiness. Mysterious happiness. That happiness fulfills us, so we don't need to search, constantly writhing for some kind of acquisition anymore. And then we can enter samadhi. With samadhi comes insight and the path continues. This is done practically, step by step, like climbing a ladder, as they say. It's not some special, mysterious, magical thing. We cultivate this step by step. We take a step, and we take the next step. Please, today, whatever else happens, allow yourself to try something new. Try something unknown. Try something that goes beyond thoughts and feelings. It isn't some mysterious thing out there somewhere. Right here. You stay right here. Right here and observe. Observe. It's not that you're trying to get rid of thoughts and feelings. Again, you can read the text, read it if you want. If you think that the Buddha said you have to get rid of thoughts and feelings, well then that says more about us than it does about that text. Certainly more than it says about reality. You don't have to get rid of it. Not about that. Stay with it. Directly observe. Feeling as it is. Feeling as it arises, feeling as it passes away. Thinking as it is. Thinking as it arises, thinking as it passes away. And just in that, there's the realization that yes, there is something beyond the conditioned world. What is it? What can you say about it? We don't need to turn that into a concept. We continue to walk step by step, step by step, step by step. This is realization. And in that way we can realize what we haven't realized. Have courage, have faith. Trust this community of friends. Trust the gladness, the wonder that arises in order to carry you to each next step in a healthy, not rushed way. Move with this clearly. Move through your own suffering to serve all of us, and in fact, to be of supreme benefit to the world.